Now, before you accuse me of being one of those typical cringe, oh wow, Malayali films are the best content creators, let me just bring in one of the worst films I had the misfortune of watching last year, and that is Sumathi Valavu. Let me be very upfront here. The film is complete ass, and that's not just because the film is a total shit show on its own right, but because the actual horror elements of the film with which it was marketed in the first place, despite being very interesting, are thrown to the wayside almost halfway through the film to make way for an exceptionally boring and generic romance story. It is one of the most egregious examples of bait and switch tactics I have seen in quite some time, and I reserve a strong hatred for this film just because of this fact. Like I said, this film has a very interesting unique selling point of this bend in the road at the exit of a town which is haunted by an entity called Sumathi, hence Sumathi Valavu, Sumathi Bend. So the entire town locks it down and refuses to exit or even go near it after sundown. And don't get me wrong, the film does have a few compelling horror sequences leveraging this concept, especially one towards the interval involving a woman who has to go into labor around sundown, forcing the leads to cross the bend with the woman, but these are very few and far between. Instead, the far less interesting romance side plot of our lead characters becomes the main plot by the second half, after the film meanders aimlessly for most of its runtime, trying to decide on what it's actually about, with the horror of the film getting benched to make way for the romance plot, and it only pops up back again during the last 15 or 20 minutes or so to mysteriously aid our protagonist for absolutely no reason, and then the film ends with the most bullshit cliffhanger imaginable. I am still slightly confused about the ending, but I guess the script writers were even more confused about the entire film, I'm guessing. See, contrasting with something like Manchatatad, which was juggling multiple tones throughout the film, quite masterfully so, with this lead even breaking into a song at some point during the emotional low point of the film, it never felt out of place or distracting, as the nature of the song is very consistent with the tone of the film at that point. Meanwhile, the lead in Sumathi Valavu breaks into the most out of place song and dance number for absolutely no reason in the least thematically appropriate point at the end of the film. It had me laughing out loud in the theater. I mean, tonally inconsistent would be quite the understatement at this point. Even more inconsistent is the nature of the horror entity and its goals. See, ambiguity in horror is great, but the film treats its horror entity as some kind of cheap, do-it-all nonsensical jump scare machine that can take whatever form it like, one or many, and do whatever the plot demands from it, taking away from the allure of the horror. You know what, even talking about this film pisses me off, and that is enough reason for me to put it squarely in the nope tier, not just as a horror film, but as a film in general. So avoid this film like the plague at all costs. Now, moving on from film that I wish could be relegated to the lost annals of movie history to the film that I sincerely believe more people should know about, Darna Mana Hai.